G'day guys, Steve Morgan here for Fishing Monthly Magazines on a beautiful day on the Patterson River in Victoria. I'm with the guys from Bar Crusher today, and in particular Matt Urzia from Bar Crusher. We've got a couple of their most popular mid-sized boats to test today. So Matt, the question we have today is not whether you should buy a Bar Crusher or not, because we all know you should buy a Bar Crusher. It's which Bar Crusher is the best for you. We've got the 575C, the 615C here today. We're going to have a look at the comparisons between the boat. Which one's your favourite?
Oh, look, they're both, in my opinion, they're both the ultimate all-rounder. They really have no limitations as to what they can do, where they can go. You can go 30 k's offshore, you can fish out in the bay in a metre of chop, you can go up the creek, up an estuary, fish fresh water, do family tow sports activities, snorkeling, tow the kids in a biscuit. So yeah, really both boats tick so many boxes.
And they're in that price range, which is sort of achievable for a lot of people nowadays. You know, that $60,000 to $70,000 price range is something we tend to ignore a little bit in the Fishing Monthly test. Everyone wants to see the biggest, the best and the fastest. This is something that you're going to see the volumes of on the water.
Exactly right. It kind of supports that all-round, you know, that all-round fit. These boats, you can tow them with your family car, family sedan. They're really affordable to run and own. You can store them in your garage, you know, so, and like we said, they've got no limitations as to what they can do out on the water. So yeah, great family all-round boats.
Now, one thing about Bar Crusher boats is they come very spec'd up from the factory. Like a standard boat has a lot of things that would be options on other boats. Can you run through a list of the options on both of these rigs, because they are very, very similar, aren't they?
Exactly right. There's not a lot to add to these boats. We put all the essentials in them from standard, so you don't have to worry about, you know, things like, is your boat going to come with a bait board, a boarding ladder, step-through transom, twin batteries, live bait tanks plumbed, bilge pump. It's all included, you know. You've got plenty of cover and protection, hardtop roof, side clears, toughened glass windscreen, rocket launcher. They're all standard items. All you really need to do is pick a few electronics, you know, pick your sounder, put a radio in it. A winch is pretty standard these days, but we still give the people the option, you know, to if they want it included or not. So yeah, feature packed, plenty of options are standard. Pretty much just means we take care of everything. You've just got to worry about a few small things and away you go.
Now, on both of these boats, you have the unique fold-down hardtop, don't you? It's a pretty unique thing which allows you to get them into a standard house garage.
Exactly right. Not many people have, you know, plenty of storage down the side of the house or own a big shed or factory, so it's important to be able to put your pride and joy under cover. So the 615 will get under 2.2 metres, the 575 will do 2150. We can get them down a bit lower if you need. We've got a few tricks up our sleeve, but you know, that means anyone can pretty much get one of these two models in and under their garage, keep it nice and dry, stored away, secure. So, you know, again, all-rounder, ticks a lot of boxes.
And let's not, because you know a lot about Bar Crushers, you know about the water ballast system in there. Go back to Bar Crusher 101 and tell us about how exactly it works.
Well, both the 575, 615 both feature our unique Gen 2 hull design. They're water ballasted hulls, so basically what that means is when the boats slow down, when they come to a stop, when you're anchored, or when you're on the drift, that hull water ballast will fill up with water. So that increases the weight of the boat, lowers the centre of gravity, gets the chines down in the water, makes it really stable, really hard to budge. She doesn't rock and roll. You know, 2, 3, 4 people on the one side of the boat still feels very safe and contained. You know, combine that with our really generous freeboard. You know, you got over 700 mils of internal freeboard, so the top decks are hitting you in the thigh. So you do feel really safe and contained, you know, inside these two boats.
Now, when the water drains out, this is a question that I've always asked when I learned about Bar Crushers: is where does the air vent to let all that water out quickly?
Well, it breathes through the anchor well, so you don't when you get up on the plane, when you take off and you put the throttle down, you don't really carry that water with you. You almost drive off and dump it on the spot. Now, the Delta Flare hull design gives the boat plenty of lift, so she gets up and out of the hole pretty quick and pretty easy. So before you know it, within seconds, the ballast is empty, you're up on the plane, and you know, you're getting to your next spot pretty quick.
And that's the secret of why the Bar Crushers ride well, isn't it? You don't build these boats to the maximum allowable beam. You can build a boat up to 2.5 metres wide, no worries, but these ones come in at 2.15 and 2.25 metres, and that's the secret, isn't it? A narrow boat with a nice fee rides well.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dark art, you know, the old length versus beam. You know, we think we get it pretty right. You know, if you're too beamy, you know, you pound and slap a little bit, you got to knock a bit of dead rise out. So we think we got that nice balance between dead rise, length of boat, beam, just gives you that all-round performance.
Now, the the aim of today is to check these boats out versus each other, you know, the 575 versus the 615. Let's go through one by one some of the differences. And I'm not a bar crusher expert, but I noticed that one's on a single axle, one's on a double axle trailer. Explain that to us.
Well, you can put either on a single or a double. Most guys will fit the 575 on the single. It doesn't really need the tandem. A lot of guys who own the 615 probably prefer the tandem. They're probably doing a little bit longer trips up and down the coast, so the tandem's a bit better on the highway, especially when you're doing 100, 110 Ks. So yeah, you've got the option of either. Both boats come in well and truly legal on singles and doubles.
That's it. Here I've got 1360 kilos for the 575 and 1500 kilos for the bigger boat, so only 140 kilos difference. Let's talk about the depth of the boat. You say there's a 50 mil difference between the two.
Yep, 780 on the 615 and 730 mil on the 575. So again, both boats really deep internal. Gives you that nice feeling when the top decks are hitting you on the thighs, especially when you're offshore on a bit of a rough day and you're hooked in on the gimbal on a fish. It's good to have those top decks hitting in the thigh, not the knees.
Yeah. Now another thing I can tell is the horsepower differences. We've got a 115 on one, a 140 on the other. That extra horsepower can be held by that bigger hull.
Yeah, exactly right. The bigger hull's a little bit heavier, so the bit of added horsepower does help. Carries a bit more fuel as well, the 615. You can go up to 150 on the 615. We find 140 is a really good match.
Yep, that 140 Suzuki's a rock solid motor, been in the market for a long time.
Oh, you see it all over the boat ramps. Every second boat's got a 140 on it, around that sort of 5.5 to 6 metre size.
Now, another thing I can tell is the length. Obviously, the 615 is 40 centimetres longer, yep. But basically, apart from those other differences, the features are the same between the boats.
Well, both boats pretty much share a lot of the same components. The 615 is just that little bit bigger boat, a little bit more length, a bit more beam, a little bit deeper internally, bigger fuel tank as well, so it's got a little bit more range. But yeah, like I said, both boats share pretty much the same parts.
Yep. The only other thing I could discern here is the build. They both got 4mm hull plates, but the side plates are only 3mm on the smaller boat.
And 4mm on the bigger boat. That's the way that these two boats are built.
Yep. Well, there you go. There's a fairly comprehensive review of the differences between these boats. But for me, there's only one way to test that. That's to get both of these guys on the water. It's a mill pond flat day out there on Port Phillip Bay today. Let's go and give them a run head to head. Well, there you go. Wasn't that a perfect day on Port Phillip Bay? Well, not perfect for doing what bar crusher boats love, and that's crushing big waves. It was perfect for doing some comparative performance analyses between these two very similar bar crusher boats. And in the theme of finding out which is the best bar crusher for you, we've crushed the numbers for you. What you'd think is the big boat would be faster with the 140. Well, that wasn't the case. The 575 topped out at 62 kilometres an hour at 6,000 RPM. The big fella only 60 kilometres an hour. So there's basically no speed hindrance with the smaller boat. The best economy, which one do you think it came from? It came from the bigger boat, 2.7 kilometres for every litre of fuel burned, and that was achieved at 3,800 RPM through that 140 horsepower Suzuki. The smaller boat, very similar, 2.6 kilometres per litre of fuel burned, but at a higher RPM at 4,400 RPM. Convert that into a theoretical range, the little boat will take you 280 kilometres in perfect conditions, whereas the big boat, 370 kilometres. So what it comes down to is which is going to be the best bar crusher for you. If you fish 1 or 2 people up, you want to have a manoeuvrable, easy to go on a single axle trailer boat that tops out at only about 2.1 metres and fits into a standard garage, then the 575 may be the bar crusher for you. It's also around $10,000 cheaper at retail than the bigger boat. If you take 2 to 3 people, you want to handle bigger waves, go a little bit further and do so a little bit more economically, well, maybe the bigger bar crusher, that 615, is for you. So some results there, fairly surprising. You thought the bigger one would be faster, it wasn't. You think the little one would be more economical, it wasn't. But the only way to really get the full bar crusher experience is to go and take a bar crusher for a test drive at a bar crusher dealer. So if you want to do more of your own research, go on to barcrusher.com.au, or if you love Facebook, go and like them at Bar Crusher Boats Official. That's the one where Bar Crusher releases all of the information about their new models, where they're going to be at shows, and the specials that they have on. But until next time, what a pleasant day on Port Phillip Bay. It's been a great pleasure bringing this comparison of 2 great bar crushers to you.